Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you live in downtown Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy Monday program lined up today. A lot on the weekend that just took place in the National Football League. We'll spin it forward to Championship Sunday. National title game is tonight. We'll hit that several times. Nick Whalen on the program. NBA bets for today here on MLK Day. By the way, happy MLK Day. Chris Felica live in Miami. His Canes, big dogs tonight for the national title. Dr. Stephen Gephardt, longtime friend of the show, longtime sports bettor, and lifelong Hoosier, will be on the show live from that stadium, and Warren Sharp a little bit later on as well. We will begin with the National Football League, Paulie. I have to admit, had the Bears big bet plus 4.5 in pocket yesterday. Never should have won that bet. And I'm not saying that because of the miraculous completion on fourth down by Caleb Williams that eventually forced overtime. I still don't know what Sean McVay was trying to do with the game plan overall. I can break down all the numbers here. The Rams should have won that game going away and never should have been in overtime. And they probably, eventually, the way it played out, should have lost, which is bonkers to me.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do it again. What a play. An all-timer. The ball traveled 51 yards in the air to run backwards. It reminded me of Auburn and Alabama, where why is that single coverage? You know what they're going to do.
And then he lost him.
He's wide open and Kmet. Yeah. How does that happen? It's like when it was Milroe on 4th and 80, whatever it was, and the guy's got single coverage in the back of the end zone. But if there was ever a time to go for two, that was it. And I thought Ben Johnson was going to do it. And it's interesting that both teams that won the coin toss decided to kick off, and they both lost, even though they got stops.
Well,
so I also can't believe how many times, and he's been in numerous big games, that McVay says, you know what, I did a horrible job afterwards. And he said it again yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
Where it just, no one throws more than this guy, 3rd and 1. The bizarre play calling, and I just don't know if Stafford's still bothered with the finger. He had some bad moments, but the throw to Adams on the sideline, incredible. But if you get that kind of performance from your defense, if you're the Bears, you got to win that game. And the defense was so good, but as we've talked about all year, they were plus 22 in the turnover differential this year, number 1 in the league, number 1 in fewest turnovers and takeaways, yet they were minus 3. And they were minus 2 against the Packers.
That's right.
So all year they did this. Play clean, take the ball away, make the other team make mistakes, and they were minus 5 in the playoffs. And they go home, and that was a tough one.
I respect Ben Johnson's decision not to go for 2 because he talked about it after the game. And he said, I did not like our short yardage stuff throughout the game.
Okay.
He was not confident in it. So that's why he wanted to kick the extra point. And
bizarre play calling, though, too, I would say.
Okay. But that's a guy who has had the pulse of the game the entire time and a feel for it. He's like, it's not there tonight. Not working for us, so I'm going to take my chances by going to overtime instead. And again, the recipe to beating that team and to McVay's, thinking afterwards, like, I screwed that one up again. The game plan all week long should have been, we're going to give it. Where was Corum, by the way, in the game?
Right.
So
because I had these props, right? And Williams, we just missed the plus 650. He had 24 yards rushing in the first half. He had 2 carries for 6 yards in the second quarter. How does this happen?
It's again, all of the numbers indicated that the Bears are one of the weakest teams against stopping the run. And the Rams are elite with the offensive line, right? So 7 rushing attempts in the first half. Overall, 27 dropbacks. Stafford was sacked 4 times, 2 fumbles. After halftime, you had a few minutes there to think about it, right? They ran the ball 3 times in the third quarter. 7, 10 yards. Yep. And all these, what guys? Come on. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know which coordinator maybe got in his ear, but finally it worked and Williams got going and eventually scored the go-ahead touchdown at 17-10 in that fourth quarter. That guy might come back and bite him in the ass against Seattle now.
Yeah.
McVay.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we talked about that so far in the playoffs after the first 2 rounds?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's right there in front of your face. You know what to do, and the coaches don't do it, and then after the game, like, yeah, boy, that's on me. Yeah. No kidding.
John Payton. The second rushing attempt for a running back occurred 12 minutes in the second quarter. And you're going against, in the mainstream stats, a team that's 28th against the run and 31st DVOA. I don't get it.
I don't.
But, the Bears could also say we let one get away too with the miscommunication on the final interception. Maybe Williams was bothered by the finger, which he got hit in the head by Verse. Again, no call.
True.
That would have been first and goal. That was on the fourth down play. And I just don't know what happened with the passing attack, where you just the guys disappeared and it was non-existent, which they had some success on the ground. But forever, Odunze was stuck on one catch. He had the big catch early and the big catch late, and that was it. So I did not expect that kind of game and that performance out of the Bears offense, and tough to take that the defense played so well, and yet the Rams get it done.
I don't think it was necessary to have that play call or for Williams to throw the pass like that. You're at the 50-yard line. Again, you can run the ball in the Rams.
Yeah.
And he had 2 INTs already in the game. I didn't care for that play call there.
Yeah, you could say there was no need for it. That's fair.
Yeah. And then, but look at by the way, the effort by DJ Moore. He gave up on the play.
He did.
That was sad.
Yep. I don't understand the all-out blitz on 3rd and 6. You just gave it to Puka.
Yeah.
That was stealing. That was a mistake to send the house there. And another one, hey, McVay, you want to move closer on the field goal? I mean, you're having success on the ground. He goes pass
yeah.
on 2nd and 3rd down.
How about that?
But thicker kicker nailed it. So special teams has bit him in the ass, but they got it done yesterday. And we set up round 3 here against Seattle.
And Seahawks, a bigger favorite in this game as of right now than they closed a month ago when they played on that Thursday night. They're about a 1.5 favorite in that game, down 30-14, and then you got the insane comeback to actually eventually win in overtime. They went for 2 multiple times, got it all.
Yeah.
But that defense is just playing out of their minds here lately.
You agree with Caleb Williams? The future's bright?
Oh, 100%.
Tough loss, but we're going to be okay?
Yeah. Now, the schedule will not be any easier next year, first place schedule, and that turnover stuff's going to come back and regress on the team. So I would not expect, I'm not going to run out to bet their win total over or like NFC futures next season.
Yep. Same thing happened to Houston. They had the 2nd fewest turnovers in the league. How'd that go? I mean, it was just Jacksonville had the 3rd most takeaways, and they were great in the turnover differential. They didn't get it done against the Bills. It was weird how this played out in the playoffs with the top teams in the turnover differential and not giving it away.
Yeah.
And the exact opposite happened in all these games.
Yeah, and you know, when games are over with, bets aside, it's like you feel bad for a unit or one side of the football team, and they deserved a better fate. That would be the Houston Texans defense.
Oh,
they were so good yesterday.
Oh,
and I got to be honest, at this point, there's absolutely no way they can give C.J. Stroud an extension.
Did New England only score 7 points off all those turnovers? Is that what
I
the
believe
number
that
was?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know.
And the Patriots didn't want to take it.
No.
May kept saying, here, we're going to keep you in the game.
And how about the fumble luck from that team yesterday?
I know. The fumble luck's incredible. Cousin Sal had a great line, the MVP of the season, the Patriots schedule. So now they take on a quarterback who's won 1 game in his career, and now Seattle's hurt too. Well, this is lucked out with the Patriots. But it's still 21-16 late in the game.
I know.
As bad as he played, and all those turnovers and 4 picks, they still had a chance to win the game. They're only down 5.
Yeah, so he kept giving them the ball on every single opportunity, and the Texans defense was like, well, we have to play out of our minds today, so we're going to get them right back off the field. Here are the numbers. Pats, first team since 1987 to win a playoff game with 13 first downs or fewer, 3+ turnovers, and 250 yards or fewer.
Yeah.
The last 30 teams of those numbers lost by an average of 21.3 points. They averaged 4 yards per play, 3 for 14 on 3rd downs, and they allowed 5 sacks. Stroud, we asked the question, could he be any worse than in the Steelers game? The answer, yes, absolutely.
Can you believe that? If we mentioned that on the pregame show yesterday, what if I tell you Stroud's going to be worse? You'd say impossible.
Right.
After how bad he played against Pittsburgh. And what exactly, I think this hurts the locker room. What did he actually have to do to get benched? Because after the game, Ryan said I wasn't concerned. Davis Mills beat the Bills. Mm-hmm. He beat Jacksonville and scored 19 fourth quarter, rallied them down from 19, rather. I mean, they could have won that game if they made a quarterback change.
Sure, it's a no-brainer. You got to make that move. That was, they made a move instead. They were not even trying to win the game by keeping Stroud in. That was more of like, we invested a very high draft pick on the guy, so we're going to protect that idea. We don't want him to be hurt. We don't want to hurt his feelings. That's what it felt like to me. Guys, Mills can come in there clearly. Again, I love reading like body language. The guy was absolutely shot after like the second turnover yesterday.
Refuses to take a sack. And it was like Drake May said in the pregame, it's okay to punt. It's okay. It's just don't make the mistake and don't be the reason you lose. And he was again. Horrible. I mean, it's to be the 3rd year in the league, and this is where we're at after how well he played his rookie season. And I also feel like they're kind of jinxed and cursed, as they're the only team that's never made a conference title game, and they're 0-7 now in this round. But I also have to give it up to New England's defense.
Oh, no question.
Phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah, they look great.
The Houston running backs, 18 for 31. The Charger running backs, 12 for 30. And the difference the big fella Williams makes in the middle and how well he played. But New England has 240 yards, 3 for 14 on third down. Win the game and cover. Incredible.
Remarkable, really.
Yeah, and how about this? We all lose again as fans. Every AFC title game since 2011 has either been New England or Kansas City.
Well,
I can't believe that.
If football gods exist, certainly they've been hovering around the Boston area now for 25 years. Because they had the best run in the history of the sport, or basically any sport with Brady, and then a handful of years later, oh, by the way, here's the setup, and you're going to have to go through the Chargers offensive line. You're going to take on C.J. Stroud and get that performance, and now you have to play Jarrett Stidham.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to beat Denver, and Darnold's going to get hurt, and Seattle's going to win.
There you go.
That's how it's going to play out.
And New England's going to win, you mean?
Yeah, right. That's how it is. Yeah. New England wins,
and
Seattle wins, and Darnold gets hurt.
There you go.
It'll be Drew Lock.
Yep, and the oblique will come back and bite him. Yeah, there you go.
Unbelievable.
That's the path.
Getting ready for Big Game 60 with a big deal to match. Save $60 off the VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using promo code FTM. Every best bet, every host, every guest, the real-time betting splits, the AI-powered prop tools, and the video. Get our guides as well, Super Bowl and the upcoming Madness. VSiN.com/subscribe, code FTM.
Up next, the title game numbers for this coming Sunday. Yet another head coach was fired, and look at where that number is now in the national title game.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. With VSiN Pro, you get access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Busy day as always today in the NBA. MLK Day. We'll get some thoughts and player props on that coming up here in a few minutes. And also early thoughts on Championship Sunday as we head out to the Progressive guest line. Nick Whalen joins the program now. He is with RotoWire. Nick, good afternoon. We talked about both these games for the first half hour of the show today, the AFC and the NFC title games. First of all, your initial reaction to the opening number at several books after, obviously, the Bo Nix injury and the Patriots won yesterday. Pats were 6 on the opener. Down. It's now down between like 4.5, 5, even like a 5.5 number out there. But your initial thoughts on that game?
Yeah, it's tough because obviously New England has, in some ways, dominated these first two matchups. But offensively, I think they've left a lot to be desired, right? Drake May has had 2 of his worst games of the season in terms of ball security. You get another really tough defense after facing 2 difficult defenses already. So I think Denver kind of knows what the script has to be. And to some degree, you never want to get into a higher scoring game if you're the Broncos, whether you have Bo Nix or not. I think that is now especially the case with Jarrett Stidham stepping in. I would be surprised if this ends up being a total walkover for New England. Maybe you could make the case that they are due to play a better offensive game and Drake May will have learned something from these first 2 postseason starts. But I think Sean Payton looks at this as a challenge. Like, hey, we got the AFC Championship game at home. I still have a chance to win this with a quarterback who's been in the building for 3 years. This isn't Max Brosmer starting this game for Denver. I think there will be a baseline level of competency for Jarrett Stidham. And you have to kind of go back to find other examples of situations like this. Everybody will mention Nick Foles, which I don't think we're getting that kind of run from Jarrett Stidham. But I remember the Caleb Haney game against the Green Bay Packers in, I think it was 2011 in the NFC Championship game. Now, Cutler started that game. He got hurt early in the second half. Haney came in and finished it out. And Green Bay, with peak Aaron Rodgers, only won that game by a touchdown. And Chicago was driving, with 2 minutes left to potentially tie it up. So too many concerns for me offensively for the New England Patriots to just assume that they're going to go into Mile High, playing on the road for the first time, and dominate that game. With that said, guys, Denver absolutely needs to find a way to run the ball. Houston was able to do nothing on the ground with Woody Marks yesterday, and Denver basically abandoned the run early on against Buffalo, which is very concerning against that Bills defense.
Yep. That was a bad job by Peyton, and I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball. Even if you get Dobbins back, based on how nasty this defense has been against the run in the playoffs and when they're healthy. How about Sutton not getting a catch till late in the game?
Look, as somebody who had Cortland Sutton on a lot of fantasy teams, this is just life when you're putting your faith in Bo Nix. I don't think the plan for Denver was to have Bo Nix throw the ball 46 times in this game. I'm with you on the play calling, especially with the way that Jacksonville was able to exploit that Bills defense on the ground. And we came out of that game saying the Jags didn't run it enough. For Denver, I know they didn't have the same level of success early on, but to completely go away from that when they had a 2-score lead, for a decent chunk of this game, I thought was very strange. Ended up working out for them, but man, there are not a lot of games where you turn it over 5 times and still have a chance to win in overtime.
Yes. So also, the Buffalo defense was terrible this year, and they give up.
Right.
They score 30 points on the road and lose. So what do you do now if you're Buffalo? Would they fire McDermott? Who should they hire? Who would you hire?
Well, the name to me who appeals most, and I wonder if he regrets already accepting the Atlanta Falcons job, is Kevin Stefanski. I have a ton of respect for what he's been able to do in Cleveland. Having 2 Coach of the Years, 2 double-digit win seasons with that roster, with that front office, with that group of quarterbacks. I think that would be kind of the archetype of coach that I'm looking for. We often do see teams kind of bounce back and forth when you do the defensive-focused hire in Sean McDermott. Oftentimes maybe you want an offensive guy coming in. I'm sure you guys have seen the Brian Daboll rumors in Buffalo. That would make sense. He was the offensive coordinator for their 2 best offensive seasons with Josh Allen. There's a level of familiarity there. It'd be a little odd given how things went in New York, but I am not somebody who thought Brian Daboll should have been on the hook for how things went for them this season. So if they ultimately do go in that direction when there's not a Ben Johnson, no doubt, got to hire that offensive guru type of candidate out there, I think Daboll is probably the most interesting hire, if nothing else.
Do you want the 2.5 with the Rams in the NFC title game, the one that's later on in the afternoon/evening on Sunday, or do you want the home team here?
Initially, guys, I'm on Seattle, and I don't feel great about it. I was telling our guy Dustin Sweetelson late last night, deep down, I still think the Rams are the best team. I've been clinging to that. They've made that a lot more difficult to back up over these last 5 or 6 weeks. But I still think the Rams' best game beats anyone else's best game. But I also think the chances of the Rams playing their best game on both ends, and if we're including special teams here, where I think Seattle has a distinct advantage, I think the chances of the Rams doing that are significantly less now than I would have said they were even a month ago. You have to be really concerned about how that defense and how the special teams units close the regular season. I know that defense ended up clamping down. They forced 3 huge turnovers on Caleb Williams. He still gave up over 400 yards to that Bears offense. I think Seattle comes into this game with a ton of confidence. They've mounted comebacks now against this Rams team twice, finished it off once, did not finish it off the other time. Not having Zach Charbonnet definitely matters, but they've been able to get that ground game going over the last month. That dates back to the end of the regular season. Just too many concerns about the Rams defense right now for me. I think the offense will ultimately be fine. I don't think the weather is going to be as much of a concern as it was this past week, but maybe you could count on Sam Darnold to give you those same turnovers as Caleb Williams, but if he's not, I think Seattle wins that game.
All right. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, our guest, RotoWire. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. You can follow him on X. He's at Whalen. I'll use the number 1, not the letter L. NBA tonight. The Jazz have had a really difficult schedule this week, and the road trip concludes here this afternoon. In fact, the game's tipping off at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock out here on the West Coast. So in like 25 minutes from right now, Spurs are laying 16.5. How did you attack this game?
Not laying the 16.5 for San Antonio. A couple props that I like on the Spurs side, though. Keldon Johnson, digging a little bit deeper here into the bench, over 1.5 threes is something I have for tonight. Jazz are allowing by far the most 3-point attempts per game in the NBA. They play at one of the fastest paces in the NBA. Johnson's gone over this number in 5 of his last 7, went 5 of 7 from beyond the arc in their previous meeting, and he's taken about 5 threes per game over his last 7. And then another bench guy for San Antonio. And this is kind of playing into the number here, assuming perhaps that the Spurs are leading by a large margin in the second half. I think we could see more Dylan Harper out there. So I like the over 14.5 points plus assists for him. Utah not only allowing the most threes, but allowing by far the most assists in the NBA, almost 32 per game over their last 10. And again, if you want to go back to that first Spurs Jazz matchup, Dylan Harper, his only double-digit assist game in the NBA this season came against Utah.
Okay, very good. I love that. Looking for the sneaky bench guys who are going to get more time in a 16.5-point spread in the NBA. So you figure this could easily turn into a blowout. Are we still going to call? So the Heat play the Warriors tonight in San Francisco. Are we still going to consider these games revenge games for Jimmy Butler against Miami?
I never really know what Jimmy Butler is thinking. Didn't even play in the first matchup against Miami, but the way you can exploit the Heat right now, to me, in the prop market is just with rebounds. They are a decent rebounding team when you look at the percentage numbers, but because they're playing so quickly, they are bottom 5 in terms of just total rebounds allowed because of that pace. Jimmy Butler's gone over his rebounds prop 5.5 in 4 straight games. So I think that's one that could continue tonight. And then one more that I'll give you guys, Tyrese Maxey over 28.5 points against the Pacers. That number might be up a little bit, grabbed it at 28.5 last night. I don't think Joel Embiid is going to play. I don't think Paul George is going to play. It's the front end of a back-to-back for Philly. Those guys have not played back-to-backs all season. Neither of them went through shoot-around, and Tyrese Maxey sees his usage rate jump up close to 33% with no Embiid and no PG on the court.
Okay, so 28.5, you said was the number?
That's the number I got last night.
Okay.
I can see where it's at now.
Yeah, because
probably a bit higher.
You're exactly spot on. When those two guys don't play...
Oh, 30.5.
Oh, it's 30.5 now? I would also...
30.5 at DraftKings.
Yeah. He's going to, based on his usage overall as well, he'll probably take 10, 12, 13, 14 threes maybe in this game. Like Grayson Allen territory, LaMelo Ball territory, plus money on over 3.5 if you can find that, I think. And also like the PRAs with him, right? Because he could have 8 assists in this game tonight and go over that 30 points as well.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese Maxey has been one of the most dependable players to play in the prop market. You get that. It's somewhere between 26.5 and 30.5 in terms of the points just about every night. You can kind of play the matchups as far as whether or not Embiid and PG are out there. And honestly, even when Embiid plays, we're still seeing Maxey, score in the high 20s just about every night. And he's one of those guys that if he has a down first half, it's never over. Like he can have 8 points in the first half and all of a sudden 24 in the second. I mean, he was just announced as an all-star starter for a reason. I think all the chaos that goes on with the Philadelphia 76ers because of Embiid, because of Paul George, it has been lost a little bit just how good Tyrese Maxey has been. I think there's a case to be made that he's been maybe the 4th or 5th best player in the league this season.
Totally agree. I love his game. He gets better every single year. So we're on the same page there. Nick, thank you for the time. Best of luck tonight and this week.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yep. There you go. Nick Whalen, RotoWire on the Progressive Guest Line. There's also a Malinsky special in a game today in the NHL starting in an hour and 20 minutes. Eric with an email. Check out the Sharks. They're as high as plus 160 on the road against the Panthers. Panthers off a long road trip. They had games on January 6th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 16th, and 17th. And so now that's 3 and 4 days, by the way, in 3 different cities. Sharks played January 15th in Washington and the 16th in Detroit. 2 full days of rest. And younger, faster team, long road trip, veteran, so plus 160 neighborhood.
Let's do that hockey. It's getting good now. Connor McDavid, 12 straight overs at home, shots on goal. Thank you to Jonathan Davis.
Win some, lose some. Coming up next, Paulie's going to recap a lot of the betting action from the weekend here on VSiN.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. Thanks for watching, as always, on YouTube TV, listening on SiriusXM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, or any of our outstanding affiliates across the country. We do have a national title game tonight, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And for most of the week, the Hurricanes were catching 8.5 or 9. Total was as high as 48.5. Now you look here at Circa, Indiana's down to a 7-point favorite, minus 20 cents. So we go out to the Progressive Guest Line. The great Chris Felica joins the program now. He's already in the stadium, of course, Bear Bets podcast and Fox Sports. Bear, as always, thanks for the time. Love talking to you, my man. What do you make of that move now?
It feels very eerily similar to what we saw during the quarterfinal between the Miami and Ohio State Cotton Bowl game, where Ohio State was 9.5 most of the week, and then we saw a significant move on game day where it went down to 7.5 or so. And I think where the line was in this game prior to the semis, with it maybe being Indiana 5.5, and even before the playoff in general, where Indiana might have been 3.5 or so. I think maybe we've seen, I don't want to say the old rope-a-dope here, but you've obviously had some public money, and then maybe the big groups and the sharps have kind of maybe built it up and bid it up a little bit with some bets only to come in with the real big bets today on game day. But I think the way the number has moved as well, if you look at the Oregon game and you look at the Alabama game, how much stock do you put in those games? Yes, Indiana won and looked awesome. But we were talking early in the year, and I remember prior to Election Day about is Alabama, should they be in the field? This is a team that only got in politically because of they didn't want to leave a team that played in the SEC title game out. It's an Alabama team that got dog walked by Georgia and got pummeled by Florida State. So it shouldn't be a surprise that they got blown out by a good team. Then Oregon, no running backs healthy. You're hearing rumors and rumblings and stories about Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi, the coordinators for Oregon, being absent for a lot of the prep. How much did that really affect Oregon's prep? So I think there are avenues and reasons to be potentially a little bit skeptical of how those games went, and maybe the result shouldn't necessarily be seen as this Indiana dominance and this unbeatable juggernaut like a lot of people seem to be hyping on that narrative.
Mm-hmm. How hot is this ticket, considering Miami on their home floor and how a home court, home field, and how well Indiana travels in that large alumni fan base?
I've known personally, as a Miami alum, I've had friends who are alums who have had club seats for 15 years or so, and they got shut out. They were unable to get tickets. I've seen anywhere $3,500 minimum get-in price here, and it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of people out in the parking lot just kind of enjoying the game or going to wherever they can, because I'll tell you what, the seating capacity here, no way it can hold the number of people that are out there in the parking lot right now. I think it's going to be pretty close to 50-50 out there. There are a lot of Miami fans out there. Obviously, there are a lot of Indiana fans, but I think the thought was, after seeing the Beach Bowl, that it was going to be like Bloomington South. I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
Okay. How much stock do you put in the common opponent? They both played Ohio State. Indiana Big Ten title game, won it 13-10, very close the entire way. Miami, a couple of weeks back in the college football playoff, I thought they took Ohio State apart. I thought they were clearly the right side and could have won by more. That was 24-14.
Yeah, and they probably should have it. And I wouldn't necessarily put every ounce of stock in it. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I don't think anybody that night in Indianapolis watching that game came off the field thinking that Indiana was definitely the better team in that game. I think that was Ohio State really killing themselves in the red zone, 4 red zone trips, one touchdown, and a whole bunch of empty trips. In talking to some people, I know they felt the same way. They were like, we never felt like we were not in control of that game against Indiana. And then when they're like, we played Miami, and they're like, oh my God, that team is good up front. So I know Ohio State, at least internally in that building, they obviously have respect for Indiana because Indiana won the game, but they could not speak any more glowingly about the Miami front on both sides of the ball than they did in private conversations that I had.
Is this going to be a regular thing? Because Cristobal won't answer and gets mad when people ask him, is the U back? Do you think the U is back and this is going to be a top 10 program now moving forward year in, year out?
Well, it should be. You look at the NIL support that they have, and you're in the ACC, where they didn't even win the ACC this year, and they're here in the playoff. And you would expect, moving forward, that the way the ACC, the money goes here now, they get a big boost in financial support. All the money from the playoff they get to keep. So I think it is going to be a thing moving forward, regardless of what happens tonight. Miami win or lose, the trajectory on this program and the arrow was clearly pointed up. And I think one of the reasons Mario is being a little bit hesitant on saying is the U back is I think he sees the new way, the future of college football, and he doesn't want to live in the past. He wants to embrace it, and sure, all those guys are welcome back, and he was part of that great past. But I think he sees a vision for the future of Miami. So it's not necessarily he doesn't want to say the U is back. I think it's more like we're not stuck in the past. We're going to be bigger and better potentially.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Chris Felica, he's already in the stadium tonight for Miami and Indiana for the national championship game. Bear Bets podcast, also Fox Sports. And also, he finished third in the Friday Night Football Invitational here on VSiN and at Circa with a record
maybe
of second.
Maybe second. I've got Miami tonight. If Miami covers tonight, I'll finish second. I'll pass Jarvis.
My apologies. There you go. You're behind him by half a point. So my guess is that you have oodles of Miami plus 8.5 or plus 9 in pocket. For the audience right now, that number is no longer gone. But 7.5 still? I mean, what would you make the number overall?
Yeah, I would say probably closer to 5.5. I actually don't have any 7. I have a bunch of Miami futures in pocket. Money line. We're here. I'm not going to take 7.5 or 8 and hope for a Miami cover and a close loss. I'm here. I expect them to win. I will admit I did play a little bit of an Indiana money line hedge with parlaying it with Jannik Sinner to win the Australian Open, maybe Arsenal to win the Prem, just to kind of get that 315, 320 money line down, but not for a whole lot, just for my stake, because I do think in my heart of hearts and in my brains of brains, I think the matchup here for Miami is a very favorable, and I think they feel really good about their play up front and how they match up front on both sides of the ball. I know Indiana's been a little bit different with the way they kind of protect, and it's almost like they pick people and don't go head on. But I just know that between the right tackle and there's a guard that had initially been at Colorado, and I have some people with the Colorado program who were like, we have no idea how he's playing in Indiana. So we'll see what happens. They obviously have to go out on the field and play and get it done. And look, if Miami does what they did against Ole Miss and they get a red zone turnover and they drop 4 interceptions and call stupid penalties like they did, they won't win tonight. But if they play the way they did against Ohio State and they play the way they did against A&M, I think they got a great shot to win.
I love Fletcher. I love the running game. How about 25 carries for the big guy?
Yeah, I think you're going to see that, because I would imagine in the first half you will probably see a lot of running and potentially a lot of long sustained drives by Miami. Without Xavier Lucas on the field for the first half, I would think that will probably try to enable Miami's defense to kind of stay off the field for a little bit and play a little bit of complementary football. So yeah, I would think Fletcher, and I would think another prop that I found that I played was Malachi Toney over 9.5 rush yards. I'm not sure we're necessarily going to see a lot of Malachi tonight, but I think if you look at the way they got him the ball in space, a couple of passes that were behind the line of scrimmage out in the flat that will count as rush plays, I think you could very easily get to double-digit yards there.
Hey, Bear, I want to go back to Selection Sunday, because you were texting us like, hey, Miami, take them plus money right now to make the playoffs. You were all over that for, I think, a couple of weeks at least. Were you also taking more Hurricanes to win the title just in case they did get in at that point? Because people have 100, 150, higher than 200 to 1 at that point on this team to win the whole thing.
I've got 150 to 1. I picked up 150 to 1 the week of Selection Day, and I got 25 to 1 before the year. I picked up 50, 60, 75 to 1 during the course of the year, and then they got as long as 150 to 1 beforehand. And it was all it wasn't part of my agenda and why I went so hard for them to get into the field. I was just kind of reciting facts, but it was all. And what my text to you and Paulie, it was all about seeing the forest through the trees, knowing the way the committee has operated in the past, and knowing once BYU lost, you were going to get Miami and Notre Dame finally right next to each other, and that was when that head-to-head win was going to kick in. Now, it should have been that way? No, it shouldn't have. And then, obviously, as soon as we saw Alabama at 9, they popped that up. You knew where this was going to go for Miami to be 10 and get into the field. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of people listened to all the shows and the tweets that I sent out. And I know there were some people that got like plus 1,000 to get in the playoff, plus 430 to get in the playoff. And if you got some prices, then maybe you can do some things tonight.
You had great tweets. Does history concern you here? We've had a lot of blowouts with the favorite.
Yeah, you had the last 6 years. Yeah, the last 6 years we've seen favorites win and win big. But also at the same time, it's one of those either favorites win in cover or underdogs win outright. Like the 12 times you've had in a CFP or a BCS title game, the 12 times the underdog has covered, 9 of them has won outright. So this reminds me a lot of maybe the Ohio State-Oregon national title game in 2014 or the Florida-Ohio State game in 2006, where I think people are so harping on, we don't trust Carson Beck. We don't trust Mario Cristobal. They lost to Louisville and SMU. They're focusing on that, and they're not focusing on the fact that Miami just went through Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Ohio State, teams that are power rated 2, 6, and 10 in the country, and they also got a win over Notre Dame. They're forgetting about all the wins, and they're focusing on everything else negative and focusing on what Indiana has done, which frankly has been great as well.
Yeah. Hey, Bear, great spot, especially a couple hours before kickoff as you're live at the stadium. Best of luck to your Canes and to your future bets on this team tonight, man.
Thanks so much, guys. Everybody enjoy the game.
Follow him on X at Chris Felica, Bear Bets Podcast as well with Fox Sports and he can finish second overall in the Friday Football Invitational here at Circa and on VSiN. All right, so he'd make the number 5, maybe 5.5, but has a bunch of Miami Hurricanes to win it all on future bets. You're going to hear the exact opposite side of the coin. Someone who made the game higher than 10, and Curt Cignetti brought up the point spread this week as well. Hear what he had to say next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Reaction to the weekend in the National Football League as we go out to the Progressive guest line. Warren Sharp joins the program as he has every Monday at this time throughout the football season. Follow him on X at Sharp Football. Website is sharp.football. Earlier today, Warren, by the way, thanks for the time as always. We appreciate it here. The Buffalo Bills decided to go in a different direction at head coach. They fired Sean McDermott. He's no longer there. What was your reaction to that news?
A little bit of relief, but also surprise. I thought Sean McDermott should be fired for a little while now because the true reason that they have not been winning in the postseason has not been Josh Allen. It has been Sean McDermott. Now, obviously, with the 4 turnovers yesterday, the case is Josh Allen's fault. And Josh Allen took that responsibility in the postgame presser. So nobody's really arguing with that. The issue is this defense, which is Sean McDermott's bread and butter, has allowed far too many points far too frequently in the postseason. They have played 6 postseason games since 2020 when Josh Allen basically came on the scene along with Brian Daboll. This offense started cranking. The team started making these nice runs throughout the postseason. And in their losses, they are allowing an average of 33.2 points per game, which is the most of any team in the NFL. They've allowed 199 total points in playoff losses since the start of 2020, which is the most of any defense in the NFL. Of 30 teams to lose playoff games since 2020, of 30, the Bills ranked number 29 in success and number 26 in EPA per play. So on a per play basis, not just a points allowed basis, this has been a bad defense in the postseason that has definitely cost this team. On the flip side, Josh Allen in the postseason, even including yesterday's debacle, is number 1 in terms of success rate in all playoff quarterbacks. There's 28 qualifying quarterbacks with at least 50 pass attempts. Number 1 in success rate, number 2 in EPA per play. In the losses, the Buffalo Bills offense is averaging over 25 points per game, which is far and away the most of any team in the NFL in playoff losses since 2020. This is a team that has been being cost because of the defense, not the offense. I definitely think it was time for a change. I hope that they go in the direction of an offensive-minded head coach and then bring in a very creative and aggressive defensive coordinator into the mold. But I'm still a little bit surprised that they retained the general manager as well. I thought they maybe should have gone a different direction in that regard also. But, you know, I don't know if Brian Daboll is the right guy, but Brian Daboll certainly got Josh Allen to have a lot more success than he's had over the last 3 years without Brian Daboll. And the last point I'll make on that from like a Brian Daboll perspective is that this team trailed at halftime with Brian Daboll in the last 3 years that he was there. Only 9 times in 3 years did they trail at halftime. The 3 most recent years, the Buffalo Bills have trailed at halftime 23 times. So 23 times in 3 years to only 9 times in 3 years with Daboll. The aggression, the importance of building early leads, that's what Brian Daboll was trying to get out of this team, and he succeeded. The defense was letting him down then. Defense has let them down since. Josh Allen needs some help. He is Superman, but he can't just keep pulling out of the cape each week.
Good observation forget about being retained. The guy was promoted. I can't believe what's going on in Cleveland and Buffalo with keeping those decision makers. What do you expect out of Stidham, who has 1 career win and hasn't thrown a pass in 3 years, if the point spread's out of whack here?
Well, look, we know that Bo Nix tends to be the leading rusher in some of these big games. They're not probably going to get that out of Jarrett Stidham in this game. So they're going to have to figure out, Denver will, another way to be productive on the ground. Also, they're going to have to figure out an avenue to success when the pass play breaks down, because I just don't see Stidham running as often or as frequently as we were getting out of Bo Nix. So you're going to lose in those areas. He does tend to fire the ball down the field a little bit more. There might be a little bit more aggression. So we shall see about the chances and the risks that he ends up taking. I trust Sean Payton in trying to figure out something to have some success. But keep in mind, this is a brutally difficult defense that you're going up against in terms of the New England Patriots. That being said, both of these defenses really haven't been tested that much this season. You can run down the quarterbacks that the New England Patriots have gone up against, and it's a list full of terrible quarterbacks for the most part. But the same actually can be said for the Denver Broncos. The quarterbacks that they have gone up against, not that great. And I know that Drake May hasn't played that great so far this postseason. So it's going to be an interesting matchup that, could come down to something that's, like turnovers or red zone efficiency. I don't necessarily see New England coming in here and blowing out Denver and having a nice, smooth, easy victory. So I think this is going to be a fun game to try to figure out and break down throughout the course of the week. I haven't bet anything on it, but I'm sure that there are going to be some edges along the way, whether it's in the player prop market or the overall game perspective to attack throughout the week.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Warren Sharp, he's on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow him on X at Sharp Football. Website is sharp.football. I know that you were high on Kyren Williams yesterday. You came on the Sunday morning show and talked about how he should be able to get whatever he wants pretty much against the Bears. And then you come out and watch that first half. 7 rushing attempts overall as a team, 27 dropbacks. Stafford was sacked 4 times, had 2 fumbles. Then they only ran it 3 times in the third quarter. They went for 7, 7, and 10 yards. I was losing my mind watching the game, and Sean McVay was losing his mind calling the game for the Rams. Don't you think?
100%. I was resorting to Twitter, like just tweeting through it because I couldn't figure out there was nobody else I'm watching the game with yesterday. I was doing solo so I could get ready for running the numbers after the game's over. I was losing my mind trying to figure out what in the world this game plan was. Through the first 3 quarters of that game, the LA Rams had 34 pass dropbacks, 3-4, and only 10 running back runs in a game that they were tied or leading in 44 out of the first 45 minutes of that game, going up against the number 28 run defense, and you have the number 1 run offense. I mean, talk about shooting yourself in the foot, just trying to accomplish anything. Sean McVay afterward came out and took some responsibility for it, but I just didn't understand it. I was perplexed. I was mystified. I was puzzled. I couldn't understand what they were trying to accomplish. The other thing I was expecting them to do more of is utilize their 13 personnel and try to use a little bit more under center play action in the drop back game to generate something there against a Bears defense that was bad against play action. Went back, looked at the numbers. Sure enough, 46 pass dropbacks throughout the course of the entire game for Matthew Stafford. Only twice did they utilize 13 personnel. The rest of it was 11 personnel. That was a little bit befuddling to me as well. So far, we have seen 2 games for the Rams this postseason. And in both games, they've gone back and looked like the 2022, 2021 Rams with nothing but 11 personnel from shotgun. They need to get a little bit more under center. They need to utilize more tight ends. I think they'll have more success. They almost lost these last 2 playoff games, and they've got too talented of a team on both sides of the football to be putting themselves in those positions where they obviously could have lost yesterday with ease and nearly lost in Carolina as a massive favorite. This is Sean McVay from a coaching perspective and the decisions that he's making from a game plan perspective and in-game adjustment perspective that have to improve against a very difficult Seattle Seahawks defense on the road this week.
Totally agree. Warren, about 2 minutes left here. Are you like us in the early game yesterday? We couldn't believe that they stuck with C.J. Stroud the entire game. We thought they had to go to Mills because the body language on Stroud was awful.
I didn't understand what he was doing out there. You have clear dropbacks on like first down where there's pressure right in your face. And instead of just eating it and taking a sack, you're jumping and trying to throw it with a defender contacting you. You have no idea where the ball is ultimately going to go. And of course it ends up getting intercepted. And he was throwing, I tweeted out at one point, over half the passes he is throwing are interceptable. Like they might not have been intercepted, but they were either close to being intercepted or it was just terrible from CJ Stroud. That being said, he did have his no number one wide receiver, his number one tight end. They drove the length of the field, scored early, and then he gets injured. The O-line stinks. They have no run game. Like, everything about the Houston Texans has been terrible, and CJ Stroud didn't help matters any, but he was in a difficult situation. I'll just say this, guys. In Houston, they got to figure out a way to practice more outside or to practice more in the elements or something. This team has been terrible when they go outdoors. It's not just in the postseason. Their efficiency overall as a team drops dramatically indoors versus outdoors. They got to figure out a better way to get through it if they hope to make runs in the postseason. I mean, they're getting to the postseason, and every time they go outdoors, they just end up losing games, it seems like.
Yeah. Great catch by you, Warren. Pleasure as always. Enjoy the national title game tonight. We'll talk to you on Sunday morning.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Warren Sharp on the Progressive guest line at Sharp Football. Sharp.football is the website. And by the way, so like props really aren't out yet for the next week. Couple of them, but not.
What are you looking at?
Well, for him to really do deep dives for us right now.
Yeah.
He'll make a bunch of other hits on VSiN throughout the week.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll talk to him again on Sunday, and he'll be loaded.
I got one I'm looking at already. Cooper Kupp, 25 yards, $1.60. Big part of the offense
Revenge
Sunday.
game.
He's going against the Rams.
I like where your head's at.
Certainly. I think Kupp's going to have a good game. Come on, he's plus money to have 30 yards.
Yep. Lifelong Hoosier, sports bettor, and doctor Stephen Geppert live from Miami for the title coming up next.